Hey guys, it's Hunter. Welcome back to another episode of Agufish. This is the mostly weekly Q&A series that we're trying to set a proper schedule for. If all goes well, we're hanging out on a Sunday. I hope your weekend is going well. Don't forget to join our Discord server. That's the best way to get your questions answered. The link will be in the description. And with that, let's jump into your questions. Actually, before we jump into the questions, I do have a favor to ask you. The algorithm gods haven't been blessing this channel recently. So, you know, if you're enjoying the video, like it, comment down below, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications. All that stuff really helps. I hate asking, but yeah, last month was pretty bad. Anyways, into the questions. Bacon Muffin asks, apology up front for the Caps PRS Tremonti review when? That B-roll footage keeps hyping me up, especially since Tremonti PRSs are so sick, and it'll probably never be within my price range. I mean, keep an eye out on the used market. I never thought I'd own one either, so I believe in you. But yeah, we've been teasing it for a while. I bought that as like a treat yourself guitar for hitting 100,000 subscribers. So the reason that video is taking so long though is because PRS was hitting up Mark Tremonti himself to see if he wanted to be involved in that video. Either like a live interview or I wanted him to lay down a quick solo on the demo track because, oh my god, that man's lead playing is insane. Like the way he voices melodic passages and the legato runs and everything. Like, man, I don't really get hyped about lead work all that much, but Tremonti is just so f***ing good. And obviously he has great taste in guitars. Anyway, so now that he's on tour and he's got a new album coming out and everything, chances aren't great that we'll be able to make that happen. And a ton of guitars have come in since that I kind of need to get to first for demos. But that PRS, I basically play it every day. I love it. The feel, the tone, and it just looks so goddamn cool. Speaking of Tremonti gear though, did you guys see that teaser photo he posted of the amps he used to record this latest album? We got our first real look at the PRS MT-100. Remember he had that signature MT-15 that launched a couple of years ago? It's a quote-unquote 15-watt head, but with two full-size 6L6 tubes. It was basically a 60-watt monster. Very Recto-esque, but in a smaller form factor. And it lit up too, so that's always dope. He's been teasing the 100-watt version for a couple of years now. It was delayed for obvious reasons. Up until recently though, it's just been like an unmarked prototype. It almost looked like a 6505, but now it's got a proper front plate and everything. I'm not sure I'm in love with it aesthetically. Like, it doesn't look like a... I don't know, I don't hate it. Whatever, I can't figure out why I don't like it, so I'm just gonna shut up. I'm sure with the big-ass open front grille, it'll look dope when it lights up, and I'm excited about it tone-wise, because if it's like the MT-15, just more massive as you get with high wattage tube heads, it's gonna be killer for both heavy and clean stuff. Tremonti's a gear nerd. Like when I ran into him at NAMM, he wasn't talking to anyone, he was just checking out the Victory amps. And that's partially why this has taken so long. He wants to make sure the MT series amps aren't just the same sounds you can get elsewhere, but with his name stamped on it. He wants something different and more himself than anything else out there, and I definitely respect him for that. I also really want it like now. Man, I'm just a sucker for anything Mark Tremonti does, really. So from the picture, it's kind of blurry, but it's two channels. Interestingly, no dual switches. It looks like the power switch has two positions, one for standby and one for on. I've never understood why that isn't just a thing in general. Separate master, presence, and 3-band EQ for each channel. The clean has a boost option as well to take it into crunch territory, so kind of a de facto third channel. What I can't quite see is what those three little holes under the clean channel controls are. They almost look like input jacks, or maybe the amp's just not done yet, like they're housings for more future switches. Like the amp literally has extra holes in the front panel, and I'm confused. There's clearly something written above each one, so they're not aesthetic. I just can't see what. I think it says level, tone, and bright, maybe? I don't know, but I am going cross-eyed from staring at this picture too long. I've already hit PRS up about it, and I've kind of been ghosted on that one. But can you imagine the PRS Mark Tremonti seg into the MT-100? I bet that would sound monstrous. Point being, PRS Tremonti demo soon-ish. Love it, and I can't wait for the MT-100. Mark Tremonti, bro, hit me up. He's gonna think I'm an idiot if he sees this video. But yeah, what's your hype level like for the MT-100, and what do you think those mystery holes in the front panel are for? Knowing the internet, I almost fear the answers. I'm gonna get to that question. But yeah, leave your thoughts down below. Hey dude, I've always wondered, and this is for almost every guitar YouTuber, honestly, what's the electric bill when making amp demo videos? Like, have you noticed the differences of cost between filming and playing to just playing to practice? or fun and not filming or doing the work? Weird question I randomly say when watching guitar-related videos. That's a pretty funny one, actually, because I've wondered that myself. And like Glenn, he has his revs on standby, but still on when he's just recording Q&As, and I'm like, yeah, that looks cool, but what the f, that must be a crazy expensive bill. So my power bill is quite expensive. Over this summer, it's been about $100 a month, and for one person in a 500 square foot apartment, that is pretty high, but I live at home, I work at home, I'm at home a lot. But so I did look up my power usage chart because I got curious about this question. And yeah, on days I film, the power bill is significantly higher. I'm talking 20, 25%, sometimes even 30. The reason being though, isn't necessarily that amps take up a lot of power. I know I make the joke about the Hughes and Kettner costing $1 in electricity for every chug, because it is such overkill, but that's just not true. Compared to a lot of other devices, even big tube heads don't use nearly as much electricity as you might think. The problem is though, they do produce a ton of heat. So you've got those, you've got the big ass light over there, so the lighting is good for filming. That produces a ton of heat too. And when I'm editing and rendering, the computer is generating a lot of heat as well. I have it water cooled, so the radiators are literally dispersing heat directly into the room, which probably doesn't help things too much. So throughout all this, the poor AC is fighting all of these things, trying to keep the apartment cool in the Georgia heat, and that's it right there. Aircon consumes a ton of power. So yeah, when I'm making any demos, amp or not, the power bill is significantly higher compared to days where I'm not making any videos, and even visibly higher compared to days where I'm just filming like an Agufish, for example, like today. And it's because you've got that additional heat source in the corner of the room that the AC is trying to offset. It's correlated to gear demos, but really it's the aircon going nonstop that destroys my wallet. So if you're worried about running a tube head because you think it's going to consume a lot of power, don't be. Your power bill might be higher, but it's not going to be because of the amp. But speaking of paying high electricity bills, thanks to Herridge Wallet for allowing me to pay mine this month by sponsoring today's video. They've actually been great with sponsoring the last few Agufish episodes, so say it with me, class. Herridge is redefining the wallet. And why are they doing that? Well, traditional wallets kind of suck. The way they just grow and collect all this useless crap, and who wants to deal with that? Not Herridge, so they decided to do things differently. Super compact design with durable plates made of aluminum, titanium, or carbon fiber. I've been using the black titanium this week because, well, it's metal. And they've got a variety of designs to match your personality. The plates are RFID blocking to thwart would-be scammers from stealing your card information, which would be not good. I love mine. I love being freed from carrying around useless crap. So if you want to see why so many people are switching over to the Herridge wallet, head on over to ridge.com/Agufish. And the best part, for you guys, you can use the code Agufish and get 10% off your order. The wallets are great, and I'm very thankful for their support in bringing you content. So yeah, check them out. Free shipping and returns, lifetime guarantee, code Agufish for 10% off. And while you're doing that, let's get into the next question. Joping Mess asks, any other companies you'd like to work with, or is there like an NDA with Harley Benton you can't actually talk about it? You mean like speccing out guitars and stuff? For those of you that don't know, that's one of my side gigs. I spec out certain specialty models with Harley Benton, specced out a signature model, V2 is in the works. Thanks for the feedback on the color tees last episode as well, you guys seem to really enjoy that. But yeah, for anyone wondering, that's how far off V2 is. We're still in the colored selecting stage. The production situation is so bad. But design for other brands, yeah, absolutely, I would love to, because Harley Benton is great, but there's no kind of real established identity. Like, there's a goal. We're trying to squeeze as much quality and spec into a relatively low price point as possible. And so obviously we're not gonna do Evertune and Fishwind, because then you're getting into a completely different price territory where you lose that accessibility factor. Like, the point of Harley Benton to me is that you can get a good playing, good quality guitar at a great price point, then you can mod it to your specs. It's like a pre-built mod platform. If the neck is good, the frets are good, the color's good, it's easy to swap out the electronics for taste. So it's awesome. They basically let me take design and vibe inspiration from wherever. It's really about making sure whatever we do, the guitar is interesting and, most importantly, accessible. And sometimes it's overwhelming having that much freedom. Like, I remember coming into my signature model design, it was like, okay, I want a purple single cut, 499 Euro max. That was it. So from there, it was like, how do I make the best playing, best sounding guitar possible? Modern, but still keep it kind of traditional, because that's me. Had to design a new body shape that was familiar but unique, new headstock shape, neck cutaway, a lot of little details. It was unique to anything they'd done before or have done since, and it turned out really well. Resonated with a lot of people. I mean, they all sold out within 48 hours. And I don't mean to brag, but the other models I've worked on tend to perform quite well too. But I also think it would be cool to work with brands brands that already have an established identity. So for example, this is a couple of years ago, and I think I'm allowed to talk about this now. Before Harley Benton, I was actually briefly approached by Epiphone for a signature model. In hindsight, it was them kicking the tires more than anything, but they asked if I was interested, and of course, who says no to that? And I'd been daydreaming about a signature Les Paul. I had ideas, I had a vision, but they just kept kicking the can down the road and never put a deal on the table, so it never happened. But like Gibson and Epiphone, they have that long heritage. Their guitars have that strong identity. So it's like, okay, how you take a Les Paul, a guitar designed in the 1950s, and make it exciting in 2021 while still maintaining that strong identity. Ideally, you want to come up with something that appeals to longtime fans of the brand and brings new people in. It's a way different challenge to doing whatever you want. The idea I pitched to them, by the way, was that it would be an affordable version of my 72 Les Paul Custom Rest Mod with a few tweaks and additional modifications. So like a 70s Les Paul Custom with that unique Norland neck shape and volute with an access neck joint. That was the main concept with little under the hood tweaks as well. I'd still love to do it though, because I mean, come on, an Epiphone signature. Love Epiphone, and having your signature hanging on the walls of Guitar Center or Sam Ash, that is goals. So, you know, Epiphone, hit me up. But the point is, it would be very different to my Harley Benton because you're working within the identity of an established brand. Or working with Fender would be fun. They do the traditional bolt-on thing. How do you work within that and also make something that's exciting to modern players? Reverend, they've got that strong Art Deco aesthetic. How do you work within that vibe? There's Kramer. I would love to work with Kramer, actually. I think there's such an opportunity there for Kramer to be for Gibson what Jackson is for Fender. Like, Jackson has guitars that appeal to the hardcore fans, the ones that have been following them since the 80s, but they're also Fender's outlet for modern, niche, experimental guitars, right? Like, they've got the crackle finishes for the hair metal dudes, then 7-string Evertune influence for the next generation of Genty boys. But I think there's a lot of potential there for Kramer to be the experimental, creative outlet for Gibson. And I think something Jackson gets wrong is that they don't have a strong identity across their entire line of guitars. Like, their modern guitars have very little to do with old school Jacksons, and I think Kramer could do much better. Like, okay, take BC Rich. Like, that company is really not my vibe, but what I love about them is their guitars have a really strong identity. It's refreshing in the current market where it seems like everyone's trying to some extent to chase trends. For example, let's take a look at the Mockingbird Extreme. Fishman Fluence, Evertune, the specs are ultra modern, but then it's got that crazy, iconic Mockingbird shape neck through. I mean, the thing isn't everyone's cup of tea, but it is uniquely BC Rich. Now let's compare that to the Jackson DK Modern Evertune I just demoed. It's so boring, and a lot of people thought I was just talking about the color, and well, yes, the color isn't great, but what I was trying to get at is there's nothing about it that's uniquely Jackson. You throw Schecter on the headstock, I'd believe you. Ibanez too, if it didn't have the compound fingerboard radius. Right, but even down to the color, it's like everyone's trying to make the same guitar, but they're missing the point. If you want to make a guitar with modern specs, please do. But there are some iconic Jackson shapes. What about an Evertune's Jackson Kelly or a Rhodes with bare knuckle pickups? And if you are going to make an Evertune Super Strat, why would you make it almost the same color that Ibanez made theirs last year? It's just frustrating because guitars like the DK Modern feel like obligations. Like, they see other brands with the Super Strat that's got an Evertune influences and they're like, oh, we need to do that too. But it doesn't bring anything new to the table. And when you've got such a passionate fan base and storied legacy, it's like, why? You could have done such cool, uniquely Jackson. Why would you do what everyone else is doing instead? And it's not even like it's cheaper than other Fluence Evertune Super Strats, so it didn't even have that going for it either. Like, I don't know, I just don't get the point. And I don't mean to pick on the DK Modern alone, it's just the last guitar I demoed, so it's fresh in my mind, but a lot of companies are guilty of this. Anyways, that's just what I think about when I'm reviewing or designing guitars. Like, what's the point of this? Are we going for a certain vibe? Are we trying to make it more cost-effective than everyone else? And this turned into a long, rambling answer, so let me just throw it to you. What do you think about the state of modern spec'd guitars? And if you could spec out a guitar for any company, any brand, what would it be? Let me know in the comments. Before we get into the next question, I want to give a huge shout out to DRJ, Dr. J, and the rest of the amazing patrons. Recently, I've been going hard, trying to upload more consistently, bring you guys better quality content, and it's all thanks to you guys. Literally, all the money from Patreon pledges go to Luke for mixing or Jordan for editing. And if you want to support the channel as well, you can do that through Patreon, get bonus extras, link is in the cards. And also, thanks to everyone that uses the Toman or Sweetwater or Reverb affiliate links in the description. Really appreciate that support too. If you want to bookmark those, it doesn't cost you anything extra. I get a little kickback. Everything I make basically goes back into the channel, into more and better content, so it's a win-win. Anyways, point is, I really appreciate you. Next question. PEF asks, do you still buy guitars for yourself, or do the ones brands let you keep satisfy your needs? Bruh, and I'm not saying this to flex or anything, but realistically, I have more gear than I could ever possibly need, or even thought that I would have. Like, I've been incredibly lucky to have a semi-successful YouTube channel, and that's opened up opportunities that I never thought that I'd have. Honestly though, I was perfectly fine with my Epiphone G400 and my Mesa Dual Rectifier. Right? Just those things. A decent, versatile guitar and a nice amp. I was a happy boy. Since then, I've been fortunate enough to work with companies that see the value in giving their guitars visibility on the channel. So I've got a Telecaster, I've got a Strat with P90s, I've got a 7-string. I guess I could still do with an 8-string and a baritone, but realistically, all my bases are covered and then some. But as we all know, when has lack of need ever stopped gear nerds from buying new guitars and amps? I think most of us can relate to that on some level. If we're being real right now, I do get preferable artist rates on a lot of stuff, because brands know if I buy something, I'm gonna be super excited about it. I'm gonna show it off to all my friends, my fellow gear nerds on the internet. That being said, usually these days I'm a little more selective. I bought the Tremonti for 100,000 subscribers. I bought the Rev Generator Mark III. The built-in 2 notes is super convenient, which saves me a ton of time. No artist deal, but I bought the Navigator used for a video, which I intended to sell on afterwards, but ended up loving it. Obviously, I paid Wendell to do the intense Restomod stuff. Putting stainless steel frets into those vintage Gibsons was basically like getting new guitars, and the cost was pretty similar too. It wasn't cheap, like all the sponsorship money from those videos was instantly gone, but he does a great job, he's a good dude, and you know, support local business. So I guess what I'm saying is the answer to your question is both. The guitars brands are sometimes nice enough to let me keep would be more than enough, but yeah, I also still buy gear. Less so more recently, like there has to be a specific purpose for it, because I'm saving up to move to a larger studio space. As the older subs probably remember, I was moving around a lot before, but I've been in the same apartment for a while now, and I've kind of maxed out what I can do in this space. It's time to make a change. It's time to upgrade. I really want to take the content to that next level. The amount of content I'm pushing out too, I definitely need a new editing PC. This one's pretty slow. New camera and lenses, like what I'm using now would be considered low, mid-end in 2015. I think I've done a decent job of doing a lot with the gear that I have, but I feel like it's time to upgrade and really go for it. For example, you know, I love doing the vanity shots and the B-roll, and some of these newer cameras do a much better job of what the guitars look like in real life. Sometimes my cameras really don't do the guitars justice, and I feel like that's a disservice to you guys. Anyways, boring. Yes, I still buy gear, but I'm pretty good at prioritizing where my money needs to go, and right now that's not into a brand new purple metallic ESP USA Eclipse, even though I want one. So I hope that answers your question. I know a lot of people are curious about the realities of being a full-time YouTuber, because on the outside it looks like we just play with new guitars all the time and that's it. I mean, yeah, obviously getting to play with new toys on a regular basis is a nice part of the job, but yeah, you guys come to the channel to get honest opinions on guitars and guitar brands and stuff, so I try to be as open and honest with you guys as possible in all things, including what it's like to be a YouTuber in this very small niche. But at the end of the day, yeah, I'm a guitar gear nerd. I do a pretty good job of justifying each one, but of course I buy guitars I don't need. If you're watching this channel and you tell me that you don't do the same thing, I do not believe you. And good news, people were again super mean to me in the YouTube comments, so now it's time to hear from yet another adoring fan. It's the high praise of the week. All of your takes are hot garbage. Wow, being called out for my garbage hot takes by a guy called Oprah did 9/11. I got nothing. That's incredible. Anyways, we're now pretty much at the end of the video, so if you're looking for something else to watch in case you missed it since last episode, I've demoed the Orange Super Crush 100, essentially a solid state version of the incredible Rockaverb. For about a quarter the price, it gets impressively close. Also demoed the Jackson DK Modern Evertune, great specs, well built, probably one of the most boring guitars I've ever featured on the channel though, and I explain why in the video. And the last one I think should be up by now is Sweetwater's doing a Win Your Wishlist promo and challenged me to build a dream wish list with a budget of $5,000. So I actually put together 5 different $5,000 rigs, some with more expensive guitars, some with more expensive amps, and use the results of that experiment to build my final wish list. So yeah, that's it. That's the end of this week's Agufish episode. Shout out again to the patrons for supporting the channel. Don't forget, you can do all the YouTube to help the channel gain favor with the algorithm gods. Social media, merch, and Discord server links are in the description. As always, thank you so much for watching. You have been awesome, and I'll see you for the next video.